The first thing Nadine said was not hello. She stood at the end of my driveway and said, "Can you fix this before he comes back?" That made my hands stop. I had been working with a wood plane on a long board of Douglas fir. The shavings were curling up like thin paper. The sound was loud and steady, so I did not hear her steps. I only saw her shadow slide across my workbench. When I looked up, she was holding a broken piece of dark maple in both hands, like it was fragile, like it could cut her if she held it wrong. Nadine Kwan was my ex's mom. My ex was Tessa. Tessa and I had not been together in a long time, but Nadine was still the same in my head. Kind, strong. The type of person who fed you first and asked questions later. The type who remembered your birthday even if you didn't. But the Nadine in my driveway that day looked like she had been holding her breath for hours. Her hair was pulled up fast, messy. Her eyes were tired and sharp at the same time. She kept glancing over her shoulder, like she thought someone might be watching. "What happened?" I asked. She did not answer that. She held the broken piece out to me and said, "The brace on my pottery wheel." I took it and turned it over in my hands. It was not a normal break. I have fixed a lot of things. A normal break has a story you can read right away. This one had torn fibers, splinters, and a twist, like it had been forced. I did not say that out loud. I just nodded and set it on the bench. "Sit," I said, pointing to the old wooden chair near the wall of my garage. She sat down, but she did not relax. She held her hands in her lap and stared at the floor like she did not trust her own voice. I went into work mode because work mode is safe. I found the clamps. I checked the fit. I picked dowels that matched the size. I pulled out the epoxy and mixed it slow, the right amount, not too runny, not too thick. I kept looking up. She barely moved. That is the thing about my shop. It is full of simple truths. Wood has grain. Glue needs time. If you rush the clamp, the joint fails later. People are not like that. People can look fine and still be breaking. I brought her a bottle of cold water from my small fridge. She took it, but she did not drink. "Nadine," I said, keeping my voice soft, "tell me what's going on." She swallowed once. Then she said one word, like it hurt her mouth. "Darius." I knew the name. Darius Penn. He owned the old brick building on Weller Street where Nadine ran her pottery studio. I had been there twice. Once for a small opening party. Once to help move a heavy kiln onto a thick pad of concrete. "He sent a notice," Nadine said. She reached into her bag and pulled out a paper folded into a tight square. Her fingers had pressed the edges so hard the creases looked sharp. I wiped my hands on a rag before I touched it. Then I read it once. Then I read it again, slower. It said her rent would double in 30 days. If she did not sign the new terms, he would start an eviction. It said the reason was damage to the building. It blamed the kiln. I folded it back the same way and handed it to her. "Is the floor in the back storage room still sinking?" I asked. Her eyes lifted fast, like I had said a secret word. "Yes," she said. "It was like that when I moved in." I felt a cold little line move through my chest. Not fear. Something else. The feeling you get when you realize someone is trying to sell a lie like it is truth. "Do you have photos from when you first moved in?" I asked. She shook her head. "I didn't think I would need them," she said, and her voice cracked on the last word. I kept working on the brace. I did not ask about the break again. I put the epoxy on the wood and slid the pieces together. I set the dowels. I brought the clamps down slowly, moving pressure from one side to the other so nothing would shift. Then I stepped back. The brace would need time to cure. Nadine watched my hands like they were doing magic. They were not. They were just doing what hands do when they have a job. "I can't pay double," she said, more to the floor than to me. "I can't start over again," she said again like it had happened before. That word hooked my brain and would not let go. "I can come look at the studio," I said. She shook her head right away. "No," she said. "You have your work." "I shouldn't." Her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and her face changed, like she had forgotten a whole other life was still moving. "I have to get Mina," she said. "Who's Mina?" I asked. "My neighbor's kid," she said. "Her mom works late." I promised the park. She stood up too fast. For a second she swayed, like her body had been holding itself tight and now it didn't know how to loosen. I stepped forward and put my hand under her elbow to steady her. Just for a moment. She looked down at my hand like it surprised her. Then she looked up at me, and something in her eyes asked a question she did not speak. "I'll drive," I said. She started to say no. "The glue needs time," I said. "And my truck has good cup holders." A small laugh escaped her, quick and real, like it slipped out by mistake. It was the first sign of the Nadine I knew. On the drive, she stared out the window. The road lights flashed on her face, on, off. At the park, Mina ran ahead of us and chased pigeons like she could win a prize. Nadine sat on a bench and held her coffee with both hands. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Nadine said, "You can't fix a lease with a wood plane." I let a little gravel fall through my fingers, one piece at a time. "I know," I said. She looked at me then. Really looked, like she was trying to see if I meant anything I said. "I'm not scared of him," she said. "I'm scared of starting over." And right then, when she shifted, the side of her blouse lifted just a bit. I saw a curve of dark ink above her hip. Not much, just enough. I blinked and looked away, because some things are not mine to grab. But my mind held onto it, like a song that cuts off before the last note. When the sun started to fade, we walked back to my truck. I drove Mina home first. Then I drove Nadine back to her car at my place. At my driveway, she got out and paused with her hand on the door. "Thank you," she said. "For the ride?" I asked. She shook her head. "For not pushing," she said. Then she drove away. I stood in my garage and looked at the brace in the clamps. I thought about the word again. If you want something to last, you don't pull it apart to look inside while the glue is still wet. You wait. You let it set. You let the truth harden on its own time. That night, after Nadine drove away, I swept the wood shavings into a pile. My phone stayed quiet for a while. Then, close to 10, a car rolled slow past my house. Not the normal kind of slow, more like a person looking for an address. The headlights slid across my garage door and across my window. The car did not stop, but it also did not speed up. I told myself it was nothing. Still, I did not like how my stomach felt. I thought about the brace again. I thought about the splinters. And I thought about Nadine's first words. "Can you fix this before he comes back?" Before who comes back? To my driveway? To her studio? I opened my notes app and typed one line. Time Nadine arrived. What she carried. What she said. Felt a little silly. Then it didn't. Because when people get pushed, they often get pushed again. And the best way to protect someone is not to guess. It is to pay attention and write down what you see while it is still fresh. "Don't go in the front," Nadine texted me the next day. "Come to the back door." That was my first hook that morning, because people do not write that unless they are scared of being seen. I was already in my truck when I read it. My tools were in the bed, tied down. My coffee was still too hot. My stomach felt tight, like I was about to step into a room where someone might shout. I parked in the alley behind the pottery studio. The brick wall was right there, tall and old, with dark stains near the ground. I had seen those stains before and ignored them. Now I looked at them like they were speaking. Nadine opened the back door just enough to peek out. "You came," she said. "I said I would," I told her. Her eyes moved past me, down the alley, then back to my face. "He sometimes drives by," she said. "Darius?" I asked. She nodded. Then she stepped aside and let me in. Inside, the studio smelled like wet clay and soap. The front room was calm and neat. White shelves, clean floors, finished pieces lined up like they were standing at attention. It did not match the fear on Nadine's face. "Mina's at school," she said. "So we can talk for a minute." "We don't have to talk first," I said. "We can look first." That made her shoulders drop, just a little. I walked straight to the back storage room. The air changed as soon as I opened the door. It was colder in there, and not the nice kind of cold. It was the damp kind, the kind that lives in walls. My boot pressed down on the floor and I felt it. A soft dip, like a weak spot that wants to hide until it can't. I set down my bag and took out a small level. The bubble did not sit in the middle. I took out a laser line and aimed it across the room. The red line hit the far wall, then the floor, then rose again. Nadine stood in the doorway behind me. She did not step inside. Like the room itself scared her. "How long has it felt like this?" I asked. "Since day one," she said. I told him. He said old buildings shift. I crouched near the baseboard on the outside wall. The wood looked darker there. Not paint dark, wet dark. I pulled out a moisture meter and pressed the 2 metal tips into the wood. The numbers climbed fast. Nadine made a small sound, like she already knew the answer but still hated seeing it. "This is not a kiln problem," I said. "This is water." She stepped forward 1 small step. "Can you prove it?" she asked. That was the second hook. Because proving things is where people win or lose when money and power get involved. "Yes," I said, "but it takes work." She let out a breath that shook. "I called an engineer," she said. "He said 3 weeks. We don't need to wait 3 weeks to start collecting facts," I said. I walked outside again, back into the alley and took photos. Wide shots of the wall. Close shots of the crumbling mortar. The dark stains near the bottom. The places where the brick looked like it had been drinking water for years. Then I went back inside and took photos of the floor. I wrote down the time. I wrote down the readings. Nadine watched me like she was watching someone build armor out of paper and numbers. "I don't want to start a war," she said. "You're not starting it," I told her. "He already did. You're just standing up." She flinched at the word war. Then she nodded once, like she was telling herself to stay upright. We worked for an hour. Then Nadine's phone buzzed. Her face turned tight again. "It's Tessa," she said quietly. My chest did a strange little jump. I had not said my ex's name in months. Nadine didn't answer the call. She stared at the screen until it stopped. "Is she okay?" I asked. Nadine looked at me, then away. She's busy," she said. "She doesn't know you're here." That was a third hook. Because now it wasn't only a landlord and a building. It was also the social mess of me being in my ex's mom's life again. Before I could ask more, the front bell rang. Someone had walked into the gallery. Nadine straightened fast, wiped her hands on a towel, and put on her customer smile. I stayed in the back. Through the wall, I heard her voice change. Bright, kind, normal, like nothing was wrong. That is what people do when they are scared. They act normal so nobody sees the crack. When the customer left, Nadine came back to the storage room. Her smile was gone. "Do you think he did it?" she asked, looking at the broken wool brace sitting on a shelf. I did not answer right away. I thought about the splinters. I thought about the notice. I thought about how rent doubling is a fast way to push someone out without saying the words. "I don't know," I said, because I didn't. "But I know this," I added. "If something breaks from force, it leaves clues. And if a building is failing from water, it leaves clues too." Nadine hugged her arms around herself. "He came in last week," she said. "He said he was checking the heater. I was in the back mixing glaze. I heard the wheel clunk. I thought Mina dropped something when she visited. I didn't want to think." She stopped. Her eyes went shiny. I did not touch her. I just stayed where I was and let her keep the space. "I'm going to come back tomorrow," I said, "with a better camera and a notebook. We will make a clean timeline." "Timeline?" she asked. "Dates," I said. "What you noticed. What he said. When the sag was there. When the brace broke. Facts in order." She nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. Then she surprised me. She picked up a pencil and wrote on a sticky note. Her handwriting was neat and strong. "Same time," she said, and stuck the note to my tool bag. As I packed up, she walked me to the back door. In the alley, the air smelled like wet stone. At the door, Nadine said, "About yesterday, you saw something." My heart thumped once. Hard. I kept my face calm. "I saw you were tired," I said. She looked at me like she was deciding if I was safe. Then she leaned closer, but not close like flirting. Close like telling a secret. She whispered, "Only if we get privacy." She did not say what she meant. She did not have to. I nodded once. "Okay," I said. On the drive home, my phone buzzed. One message. From a number I had not saved anymore, but I knew it anyway. "Tessa." It said, "Are you at my mom's studio?" I stared at the screen. The road ahead blurred for a second. Because now the conflict was not only physical, like a weak floor, not only money, like rent, now it was social too. And social problems can hurt in ways a hammer can't fix. I did not answer Tessa right away. I waited until I was home and parked. Then I read her message again. I typed, "Yes, I'm helping your mom with a building problem." Then I erased it. "I typed?" she asked. I said yes. Then I erased it too. Words matter. Words can be turned into weapons if you hand them to the wrong person. In the end I wrote, "Yes, your mom is dealing with a landlord issue. I'm just checking the floor."
Tessa replied fast.
Why didn't she call me? I stared at that line. Not because I had no answer. Because the answer was not mine to give. So I wrote, "Talk to her. She needs support, not fights." Tessa did not reply after that. I sat on my couch and listened to the quiet. Part of me felt guilty for even being involved. Another part of me felt sure I was doing the right thing. Then another message popped up on my phone, from a local group chat I barely used. Someone had posted, "Big changes coming to Weller Street." No details, just that line. I stared at it and felt my jaw tighten. People talk before they know the truth. And once a rumor runs, it is hard to catch. You can care about someone without crossing lines. You can help without trying to own the story. And when hard talks come, it helps to keep your messages simple, kind, and clear, so they can't be twisted later. When you need to win against a lie, you don't yell first. You write things down, you take pictures, you keep your cool, and you make the truth easy to see. The storm hit in the middle of the week. Not a gentle rain. A hard, loud storm that made the gutters overflow and the streetlights flicker. My phone buzzed at 9:12 p.m. Nadine's name.
I ansvaret fast.
"He's here," she said. Her voice was low and tight. "Darius is here. With someone." That was the first hook of the night. Because nobody wants a landlord showing up late with a stranger. "Are you alone?" I asked. She paused. Then she said, "Yes, Mina's home with her mom. The assistants left early." I heard a deep rumble in the background. Thunder or something slamming. "Do you want me to come?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "But the power just went out. The front door is locked, but he has keys." I was already pulling on my jacket. "I'm coming," I said. The drive felt shorter than it should have. Wipers moving fast. Water on the road. My mind running through plans like a list. If he is inside, stay calm. Don't shout. Record times. Stay near the door. When I got there, the street was empty. The studio windows were dark. Only two small work lights glowed inside, weak and yellow. I knocked on the back door. Nadine opened it right away and pulled me in. Inside, the air was colder than usual. The roof rattled with rain. The place felt smaller without the normal lights. Nadine had a flashlight in her hand like it was a shield. Her other hand held a folder of papers. "He came in the front," she whispered. "He said he needed to check the breaker room." "Where is he now?" I asked. "Gone," she said. "But he left a note." She handed it to me. Sticky note. One line. "Inspection Friday. Be ready."
No hello.
No reason. Just that. I looked up. Nadine was watching my face, waiting for me to say what it meant. "It means he wants you scared," I said. "So you make mistakes." She swallowed. "I don't want to mess up," she said. I set the note on the table and opened my tool bag. "Then we do what we've been doing," I said. "We get ready." We went to the storage room. The battery lights made long shadows on the floor. The sag looked worse in that light, like the room was tilting. I checked the temporary support posts I had put in earlier that week. They were holding. but I wanted them tighter. I tightened bolts, slow and careful. Nadine sat on the floor near the gallery, papers spread out like a puzzle. Bills, lease pages, notes, photos printed on cheap paper. The storm kept pounding. After a while, Nadine said, "Tessa called me." I paused my wrench. "What did she say?" I asked. Nadine's voice went flat. "She asked if you were here," Nadine said. I said yes. My stomach dropped. "And?" I said. Nadine rubbed her forehead. "She said it was weird," Nadine said. "She said people will talk." That was a new kind of pain. Not a broken beam. Not a rent notice. A social knife. The kind that cuts slow. I walked over and sat down across from Nadine, leaving space between us. I kept my back against the brick wall. The rain was so loud it felt like the building was breathing hard. "Are you okay?" I asked. Nadine laughed once, but it was not happy. "No," she said.
I'm tired.
She stared at the papers. Then she said, "I'm tired of holding everything up while people act like I'm weak." Her voice shook on the last word. I did not rush to answer. I watched the light on her face. I watched her hands. They were steady but too tight. Then she said, "You noticed it at the park." I blinked. "The ink," she said. The room felt quieter, even with the storm. "I noticed," I admitted. She nodded. Her throat moved like she was pushing something down, then letting it rise. "Only if we get privacy," she said again. And then, because we were alone, because the power was out, because the world outside was all rain and dark, she did not stop there. She lifted the hem of her blouse. Slow. Not like a show. Like a person opening a door they have kept locked for years. The tattoo was a compass rose. But it was not perfect. It was cracked through the middle. And the cracks were filled with gold ink. Thick lines like someone had stitched it back together. The gold lines did not end at the tattoo. They ran into scars. Long, pale, raised scars that curved across her side and down. I felt my own chest ache. Not because it was ugly. Because it was proof of a fight she never told me about. I did not reach for her. I did not ask to touch. I just looked and kept my face steady, so she could see I was not scared of it. Nadine's eyes were on my face. Watching. Testing. 8 years ago, she said, a driver ran a red light. Her words came simple, one at a time, like she was laying stones down so she would not fall. "I was in the passenger seat," she said. "Hospital for weeks. The doctor said I might never throw big pieces again." She swallowed. Then she said, "I had to learn my body again." I nodded slowly. "And you did," I said. She gave a small shrug, like she did not want praise. Like praise would feel too bright for the dark room. "I rebuilt once," she said. "That's why I'm scared to rebuild again." So that was what again meant. I let the silence sit. Then I said, "You don't have to tell everyone. You don't have to prove pain to earn help." Nadine's eyes got wet, but she did not cry. She lowered her blouse and pulled my jacket tighter around herself. We drank coffee made on a small camp stove she kept for long studio nights. The cups were warm. Our fingers did not touch. I made sure of it. Not because I didn't want to, because this moment was not about what I wanted. We worked for another hour. She sorted papers into piles. I labeled photos. I wrote a clean list of facts. SAG present before lease. Water signs outside. Moisture readings. Support posts. Halfway through, I looked up and remembered something. If you're listening right now and you like these real, slow stories, please subscribe to the channel for more like this. And comment below from where in the world you're listening to this story. I always read the comments, and it helps more than you think. Nadine looked at me funny when I said it out loud, like she was not used to someone talking to an invisible crowd. I smiled a little. "Long story," I said. Near midnight, the storm softened. The rain turned from pounding to tapping. The battery lights dimmed. At the door, Nadine said, "Friday is the inspection." "I know," I said. She looked like she wanted to ask something else. Then she didn't. When I stepped into the alley, she said my name once. Quiet. I turned. "Thank you," she said. Not for the bolts. Not for the photos. For the steadiness. On the drive home, my phone buzzed again. Tessa. This time she called. I didn't answer while I drove. I waited until I was parked. Then I stared at the screen. Because now the next conflict was coming. Not water. Not wood. Words. And words can ruin things fast if you swing them like a hammer. I did call Tessa back the next day. Not in the car. Not late at night. In the middle of the afternoon when voices can stay calm. She picked up on the third ring. Is this about Mom? She said right away. Yes, I said. But it's also about you. There was a long pause. Then she said, people will think it's weird. I heard the fear under her words. Not fear of me. Fear of gossip. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of not being needed. I'm not there to be your replacement, I told her. I'm there because the building is unsafe and your mom needs help. Tessa went quiet again. Then her voice got smaller. She doesn't tell me everything, she said. I believed her. Because Nadine didn't tell me everything either. She only gave what she could when she could. Call her, I said. Not to argue. Just to listen. Tessa exhaled into the phone. Okay, she said. And for the first time it sounded like she meant it. Later, Nadine told me Tessa did call. Nadine said they talked for a long time. Not perfect, but real. That mattered because fights don't only happen in courts. They happen in families too. And sometimes the best repair is not a tool. It is a phone call where nobody tries to win. When someone is scared, they may try to pull you into a fight in public. But if you keep your voice low and your facts clear, you don't give them the show they want. Friday came with the kind of quiet that makes your ears listen harder.
No storm. No loud rain.
Just gray sky and cold air. The first hook of that day was Nadine's text at 7:03 a.m. He moved it up. Noon. I was already on my way. When I got to the studio, Nadine was there early, cleaning even though nothing was dirty, wiping the same spot twice, then stopping herself. You don't have to scrub the floor for him, I said. She gave a tired smile. I'm not scrubbing for him, she said. I'm scrubbing so I can breathe. I set my tool bag down and opened the binder we made. Photos in order. Notes in order. Moisture readings. Times. Nadine had tabs with neat labels. I respected that. It takes a special kind of strength to be careful when you are scared. At 11:40, the front bell rang. Not a customer bell. A hard knock. Nadine froze. I walked to the front with her. We stood side by side, not touching, but together. Darius walked in like he owned the air. He was wearing a clean coat, too nice for a rainy city, like he wanted to look important. Behind him was a man with a clipboard and a laser measure. The inspector. Darius did not smile at Nadine. He didn't even greet her. He nodded toward the back. Make it quick, he told the inspector. The inspector walked like he was bored already. That was a hook too, because bored people miss details on purpose. They went into the storage room. I went with them. The inspector looked at the support posts and made a sound in his throat. He scribbled on his paper without measuring anything. He glanced at the kiln pads and said, "Load stress." Then he turned like he was done. I stepped in his path, not angry, not loud. Just there. "Check the sill plate," I said. He looked at me like I was a fly. "I've seen enough," he said. I held up my moisture meter. "If you sign a report without testing the perimeter framing, I will file a complaint with the licensing board," I said. "Today." The inspector blinked. For the first time, his eyes woke up. Darius's voice came from the hall. "What's taking so long?" he snapped. The inspector looked toward him, then back to me. He took the meter, annoyed. He pressed it into the baseboard near the outside wall. The meter beeped. The number jumped high. He tried again a few feet away. Same. He tried again. Same. His face changed. Not fear. More like surprise that the truth was louder than he wanted. He walked out to Darius. "Exterior water ingress," the inspector said. "Rotten sill plate. This is not from tenant equipment." Darius's face tightened. "That's not possible," he said. The inspector shrugged, like he wanted to leave. It's possible, he said. It's right there. Darius turned to Nadine and pointed a finger like a weapon. The rent increase stands, he said. You have until the end of the month. Nadine did not step back. She walked from behind the counter with a folder in her hands. Her face was calm, but her eyes were bright and steady. I saw a flash of the woman who learned her body again after pain and still sat at the wheel. She opened the folder and spoke, clear and slow, like she practiced. She named the city code section that blocks rent increases during a known unsafe building problem. She named the emergency clause in her lease. She showed the photos. She showed the readings. She showed the timeline. Darius's mouth opened and closed. He looked at me like I was the reason this was happening. But it wasn't. The reason was the truth. He grabbed the folder, turned, and stormed out. The door rattled behind him. Then the studio went quiet. Nadine stood in the middle of the room like she had been holding a heavy box and finally set it down. Her shoulders dropped. She let out one long breath that sounded like it had been trapped for months. I did not cheer. I did not say I told you so. I took one step toward her and stopped. You did that, I said. Every word. Her eyes filled. This time, a tear rolled down, quick and honest. She wiped it away fast and laughed once. Small. I thought I would shake, she said. My hands didn't shake. Your hands know what to do, I said, and she understood what I meant. 2 weeks later, the new lease papers were ready. Same rent. 5 years. A real repair plan with dates and duties. Nadine signed first. Then she slid the paper to me and pointed to a line. My name was there as guarantor and emergency contact. I looked up at her. You wrote me in, I said. She nodded once. No big speech. Just a simple truth. I trust you, she said. I signed. Outside, the sidewalk was busy. Cars passing. People walking dogs. The smell of warm bread from a bakery on the corner. Nadine said, I should get back. Me too, I said, but neither of us moved. She reached out and wrapped her fingers around my wrist. Not pulling, just holding. I lifted my free hand and touched her jaw, light, asking with my eyes. She looked at me the way she did in the dark studio, steady and honest. So I kissed her, right there, not rushed, not wild, just happy, quiet, and real. Later that day, my phone buzzed. Tessa. I took a deep breath and called her back. We talked for a long time. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. Some hurt stayed. Some softened. We found a kind of peace that didn't need cheering. That night, Nadine texted me a photo from her studio. A new sign on the wall, hand-painted. It said, Stay true. And under it, on a small shelf, she placed a tiny clay compass rose with gold lines. If you take anything from this, it's simple. When someone tries to scare you with a lie, you don't have to yell louder. You can win by being calm, by writing things down, by taking photos, by asking the right questions, and by waiting for the truth to set like glue. The happy part did not end with the paper. Paper is just paper. The real win showed up in small moments after. The next week, Nadine held a tiny class on Saturday. Just 6 people. 2 teens, a dad, an older woman, and a couple on a date. I stood near the back and pretended to be busy fixing a shelf. Nadine taught them how to center clay on the wheel. Her voice was gentle. Her hands were sure. At one point, a teen said, I can't do it. Nadine smiled and said, Not yet. Keep your elbows in. Slow hands. Breathe. The teen tried again, and the clay steadied. I felt something warm in my chest. Not pride like a trophy, more like relief, like watching a light come back on. After class, Nadine found me in the back room. She held up a small, fresh piece of clay. It was shaped like a tiny compass. Not perfect, but strong. For you, she said. I took it carefully. Why? I asked. She pointed to the gold lines painted across it. Because you didn't grab, she said. You waited. That was her way of saying she noticed. That night, Tessa came by the studio too. She didn't stay long, but she walked in, looked around, and hugged her mom. Not a big movie hug. A real one. Tessa looked at me after. Her eyes were tired. "Thank you," she said. I nodded. "Take care of her," I said. Tessa nodded back. "I will," she said. Later, Nadine and I walked to the corner bakery. The air was cold, but not mean. We bought warm bread and split it in the car. Nadine laughed with her mouth full and said, "This is the best kind of problem." "Bread?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Bread problems." We sat there, eating, quiet and happy. And when she reached for my hand this time, I didn't feel confused. I felt lucky, because some endings are loud. But the best ones are steady. They feel like a floor that holds when you step on it. 1 month later, the repair crew finally showed up. Not my tools this time. Real workers hired and paid by Darius's company, because he had no choice. Nadine texted me a photo of fresh wood stacked in the alley. She wrote, "They're fixing the rot." I drove over after work and watched from the doorway while they worked. Nadine stood beside me, arms folded, calm. "I used to think I had to do everything alone," she said. "Now I know I can ask for help and still be strong." I squeezed her hand once. No big speech, just a promise we both understood.